When life feels overwhelming, understanding the weight you carry, life will press down on you in ways that make you question everything about yourself. There will be moments when the responsibilities, the setbacks, and the expectations all converge into a single point of pressure so heavy that you can barely breathe. You sit there asking, God, how am I supposed to do this? And that question doesn't come from weakness, it comes from honesty. It comes from finally admitting that the load you're carrying feels unbearable. And that admission is the very doorway to transformation, because until you acknowledge the weight, you can't begin to shift it. Most people walk through life pretending they're fine, hiding their struggles behind a smile, keeping the mask on so no one sees the cracks forming inside. But the truth is, pretending doesn't lighten the weight. Denial doesn't make the load easier to carry, it makes it heavier. Because now you're carrying not only the burden itself, but also the burden of keeping it hidden. That's why the first step is recognition. You have to say, yes, I'm tired. Yes, I feel overwhelmed. Yes, this feels like more than I can handle. That isn't defeat, it's courage. It's the first act of clarity in a world where everyone else is trying to numb their pain instead of facing it. Think about how life works. The more you grow, the more weight is added. Success doesn't make the load lighter, it actually increases it. With every new opportunity comes greater responsibility. With every level you rise to comes a new set of challenges. And if you don't develop the strength to handle the weight at this level, you'll never have the strength to carry the next one. The overwhelming feeling isn't proof that you're failing. It's proof that you're being stretched. It's proof that life is preparing you for something greater. The weight is not punishment, it's training. See, the enemy of your purpose wants you to believe that the heaviness means you're not capable, that the exhaustion means you're unworthy, that the setbacks mean you're not chosen. But that's a lie. The weight doesn't come to break you, it comes to build you. Just like a bodybuilder adds plates to the bar to tear the muscles so they can grow stronger, life adds pressure to your shoulders so your spirit, your faith, and your discipline can expand. If the bar feels heavy, it's because you're being developed, not destroyed. But let's be real, acknowledging this doesn't always make it easier. Sometimes you wake up and it feels like you can't even take the first step. The bills are stacked higher than your paycheck. The people you thought you could count on aren't showing up. The dream you've been working on feels like it's slipping further away instead of getting closer. You pray, you hustle, you grind, but still, the results don't match the effort. That's when you start whispering in your spirit, how am I supposed to do this? And it's in that moment that the real choice is made. Will you quit or will you keep pressing? Will you sink under the weight or will you allow it to make you stronger? Here's the truth, you were never meant to carry the entire load on your own. The reason the burden feels unbearable is because you're trying to lift it without the right alignment. When you try to control every outcome, when you try to micromanage every detail, when you think it's all about your strength alone, the weight will crush you. But when you shift your perspective and realize that every obstacle is training, that every delay is preparation, that every pressure is building endurance, suddenly the weight doesn't feel like punishment anymore. It feels like proof of progress. Think about this. Diamonds are only formed under extreme pressure. Gold is only refined in fire. Strong trees only grow deeper roots when the winds are fierce. And you, too, are being shaped by what you are carrying right now. The weight you feel today is the evidence that something greater is being forged inside of you. That overwhelming season is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your strength. Every tear, every frustration, every unanswered question is a brick in the foundation of who you are becoming. Now, let's talk about responsibility, because many times the weight comes from carrying things you were never supposed to carry in the first place. Some of you are burdened not by your own purpose, but by the expectations of others. You're trying to live for their approval, trying to meet their demands, trying to prove yourself to people who don't even value you, and that unnecessary load will drain you faster than anything. You have to learn to separate what's yours to carry from what's theirs to drop. Stop holding on to obligations that don't align with your calling. Stop sacrificing your peace to meet someone else's temporary comfort. The weight of other people's expectations is not your responsibility. Your true responsibility is to step into the life you were designed for. And here's the powerful revelation. Sometimes the very question, how am I supposed to do this, is the exact evidence that you are supposed to. If you couldn't handle it, the opportunity wouldn't have been placed before you. If you weren't built for it, the challenge wouldn't have shown up at your doorstep. The fact that you're in this moment means that deep inside you is everything you need to rise above it. Life doesn't hand you weights you can't eventually lift. The very presence of the burden is proof that you are capable of overcoming it. So, when life feels overwhelming, don't mistake the weight for weakness. See it as preparation. See it as development. See it as the training ground for the next level of your destiny. Understand that you are not broken because you feel the pressure you are being built because of it. And the very moment you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what is this building in me, is the moment you begin to rise. That's when the weight starts to transform from a crushing burden into a strengthening force. That's when you realize that life is not happening to you, it's happening for you. And with every heavy step, you are moving closer to the person you were always meant to become. The power of faith in the midst of confusion. There will be seasons when nothing makes sense. You will look at your life and see contradiction after contradiction. You're working harder than you ever have, but the results aren't showing up. You're praying with all the faith you can muster, but the doors you've been knocking on stay closed. You've been planting seeds, yet the ground looks barren. And in those moments of confusion, it's easy to believe that you're forgotten, abandoned, or being punished. But confusion is not the absence of purpose, it is the testing ground for faith. Faith doesn't shine the brightest when everything is clear. Faith shines when everything is unclear. When the path ahead is foggy, when the pieces don't fit, when the outcomes don't match the effort, that is when faith becomes the anchor that keeps you from being swept away. Faith isn't about having certainty in circumstances. It's about having certainty in the one who is greater than your circumstances. It's the ability to say, even though I don't understand this right now, I trust that it has meaning. Even though I don't see the way forward, I believe the way exists. That's what gives you strength in the middle of chaos. Most people think faith is about feelings. They wait until they feel inspired, motivated, or uplifted to walk in it. But faith is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's an act of courage to step forward when your emotions are screaming at you to stop. It's the ability to keep moving when your logic says it's pointless. Faith doesn't always erase fear, it overrides it. It doesn't always erase doubt, it pushes through it. Faith is choosing to act as though the promise is true, even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. Think about a seed planted in the ground. Once it's buried, there's no visible sign of life. If you stood over the soil day after day, you might say, nothing is happening, but underground, a miracle is unfolding. The seed is breaking open, roots are forming, and growth is beginning where you cannot see it. That's how faith works. You plant with belief, you water with persistence, and even though you don't see anything on the surface for a while, you trust that something is happening beneath it. Confusion says nothing is working. Faith says keep going because unseen progress is taking place. Confusion can either be the soil of frustration or the soil of faith. It all depends on how you respond to it. If you let confusion convince you that nothing will ever change, you will stop planting, stop watering, stop showing up. But if you let confusion remind you that you're not in control of the timing, you'll keep pressing forward with trust. That's where the power is, not in having everything figured out, but in believing that everything is already being figured out on your behalf. Now, here's the hard part. Faith requires surrender. And surrender is one of the hardest things for driven, ambitious people. We want to control, we want to force, we want to dictate how and when things happen. But real faith means loosening your grip. It means saying, even if this doesn't go the way I planned, I still believe it's working for my good. That doesn't mean you sit back and do nothing. It means you do your part with excellence and then release the outcome. You show up, you work, you serve, you plant, and then you trust that the harvest will come in its season. Confusion loses its power the moment you stop demanding immediate answers and start trusting eventual outcomes. Another key truth, confusion is not always a sign that you're lost. Sometimes it's evidence that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Growth requires discomfort, and discomfort often feels like disorientation. When a caterpillar enters the cocoon, it doesn't know what's happening. It only knows that it's being broken down. It has no clarity that wings are being formed. In the same way, your season of confusion might be the very cocoon where your transformation is happening. Faith allows you to endure the breakdown because you know a breakthrough is forming. And let me tell you this, you cannot access the next level of your destiny without passing through confusion. If everything made sense, if every step was obvious, if every outcome was predictable, then there would be no stretching of your spirit. Confusion is the fire that purifies faith. It burns away shallow belief and forces you to dig deep into conviction. It pushes you to build a foundation that can withstand storms, because faith that only works when things are easy isn't faith, it's convenience. True faith is forged when you stand firm even when life doesn't add up. But here's the beauty of it. Faith doesn't just help you survive confusion, it transforms confusion into clarity over time. What doesn't make sense today will one day be the very thing you're most grateful for. The detours will reveal themselves as the exact paths you needed. The closed doors will show themselves as protection. The delays will prove themselves to be preparation. And when you look back, you'll realize that confusion wasn't chaos, it was construction. You were being built in ways that couldn't have happened if everything had been smooth and predictable. This is why you must guard your heart in seasons of confusion. Doubt will whisper to you. Fear will shout at you. People will give you advice rooted in their own limitations. If you listen to the wrong voices, confusion will consume you. But if you root yourself in faith, if you remind yourself daily of the promises spoken over your life, if you surround yourself with people who lift you instead of drain you, you'll find that even in the fog, your steps are still ordered. Even when you can't see clearly, you'll sense that you're not walking alone. Faith in confusion is not about ignoring reality, it's about interpreting reality through the lens of destiny. Yes, things are hard. Yes, you feel lost. Yes, it looks uncertain. But faith says, even though I don't understand this now, I will one day. And until that day, I will not stop moving forward. That's where your strength comes from. That's how you turn a season of chaos into a season of growth. That's how you stop asking, how am I supposed to do this? And start saying, I don't know how this will work out, but I believe it will. When you live this way, confusion no longer paralyzes you. Instead, it propels you. You stop waiting for perfect clarity before taking action. You stop letting unanswered questions hold you hostage. You keep going step by step because you know faith is the bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. And eventually, what once felt like the most confusing chapter of your life will become the most defining chapter of your story. That's the power of faith in the midst of confusion. It doesn't just carry you through the storm, it transforms the storm into your testimony, turning struggles into strength through discipline. Life will hand you struggles that feel unfair, situations that test you beyond your limits, and obstacles that make you want to throw in the towel. But here's the reality. Struggles are not accidents. They are not interruptions to your journey. Struggles are the very training ground that produces the strength you'll need for your destiny. Without them, you would never develop the resilience, the wisdom, and the endurance required to step into greatness. The difference between people who crumble under their struggles and people who rise from them lies in one thing: discipline. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. It is the ability to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is not about emotion, it's about decision. When the struggle shows up, your emotions will tell you to quit. They'll say, it's too hard, it's not fair, it's not worth it. But discipline will step in and say, we're going to keep moving anyway. And that decision to keep moving in the face of resistance is what turns the struggle into strength. Let's be honest. Struggles expose you. They reveal what you're really made of. When everything is easy, you can convince yourself that you're disciplined. But the moment struggle shows up, the truth is revealed. Do you fold when pressure rises? Do you get distracted when the results don't come quickly? Do you let pain dictate your actions? Or do you stand firm, stick to your principles, and keep building even when no one is watching? Struggles strip away the illusion and show you whether your discipline is real or just a performance. This is why discipline must be practiced daily, not only when life is smooth. You don't build strength in the middle of the storm, you build it before the storm arrives. Just like an athlete trains before the competition, you must train your mind, body, and spirit through consistent discipline. That way, when the struggle comes, you're ready. You've already conditioned yourself to endure discomfort. You've already trained yourself to say no to excuses. You've already built the muscle of persistence. Discipline ensures that when the weight of struggle is placed on your shoulders, it doesn't break you, it strengthens you. Think of a person lifting weights in the gym. The muscle only grows when resistance is applied. The heavier the resistance, the stronger the muscle becomes. But the growth doesn't happen during the lift. It happens because of the discipline to show up day after day, to push through the pain, to embrace the discomfort. The struggle of lifting is what signals the body to adapt and grow. Life works the same way. Struggles apply resistance to your character, your patience, your faith, and your focus. And discipline is what allows you to push through that resistance until you come out stronger on the other side. But here's the trap most people fall into. They confuse pain with punishment. They believe that because they're struggling, something is wrong with them or their path. That mindset robs them of the gift hidden in the struggle. Struggles are not punishments, they're opportunities. They are invitations to develop strength you would never have built otherwise. The discipline to see your struggle not as a curse but as a classroom is what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Discipline says, this pain has a purpose, and I will keep showing up until I discover it. Struggles also reveal your relationship with time. Most people want instant results. They want the breakthrough without the process, the reward without the discipline, the victory without the fight. But struggles don't work that way. They demand patience. They require you to endure seasons where progress is invisible, where results don't match your effort, where everything inside you wants to give up. Discipline is what allows you to endure those seasons. It's the voice that says, stay steady, stay faithful, keep sowing, keep grinding. The harvest is coming. Without discipline, you quit too soon. With discipline, you persist long enough to see the transformation. Now let's deal with excuses, because they're the enemy of discipline. When the struggle hits, excuses will multiply. You'll tell yourself you're too tired, too busy, too old, too inexperienced. You'll convince yourself that it's just not the right time, or that maybe it wasn't meant to be. And every excuse feels justified in the moment. But excuses never lead to freedom, they lead to bondage. They keep you chained to the same struggles year after year. Discipline, on the other hand, destroys excuses. It silences them with action. It doesn't ask, do I feel like it? It says, this is who I am, and this is what I do, regardless of how I feel. That's the kind of mindset that transforms struggles into stepping stones. Another thing struggles teach you through discipline is perspective. Two people can go through the exact same situation and come out with completely different results. One person sees the struggle as a dead end. The other sees it as a detour. One sees it as destruction. The other sees it as construction. The difference isn't in the struggle, it's in the perspective shaped by discipline. Discipline trains you to reframe struggle, to ask not, why me? But what is this teaching me? How is this making me stronger? How can I use this for growth? That shift alone can turn your darkest season into your most defining season. And let me remind you of this truth. Your struggle is not just about you. The strength you build through discipline isn't only for your benefit, it's for the people connected to you. Someone is waiting for the testimony of your perseverance. Someone is looking to you as proof that it's possible to rise. Your struggle becomes their roadmap. Your discipline becomes their inspiration. When you refuse to quit, you don't just change your own story, you give others the courage to keep going in theirs. That's why you cannot afford to give in. Your discipline has generational impact. Finally, discipline transforms the way you see yourself. Each time you push through the struggle, each time you keep going when you wanted to quit, you prove something powerful to yourself. You prove that you are stronger than you thought. You prove that you can trust yourself to follow through. You prove that you are not a victim of your circumstances, but a master of them. And once you see yourself this way, no struggle can intimidate you the same way again. That's the gift. Discipline gives you the unshakable confidence that no matter what life throws your way, you have what it takes to rise. So don't run from the struggle. Don't despise it. Embrace it. See it as training. Use discipline to transform it from an obstacle into an opportunity. Because every struggle you endure with discipline becomes a seed of strength planted inside of you. And one day, that seed will grow into a harvest of resilience, confidence, and power that nothing and no one can take away. Trusting the process when you can't see the outcome. One of the hardest parts of walking through life's struggles is not knowing how it's all going to turn out. If you're honest, there are times when you wish you could fast forward the process, skip ahead, and see the ending. You want reassurance that the pain will be worth it, that the sacrifice will pay off, that the tears won't be wasted. But life doesn't work like that. The process rarely reveals the outcome at the beginning. Instead, you're called to trust. Trust that the invisible seeds you're planting today will one day grow into a visible harvest. And this is where most people stumble. We live in a world that idolizes speed. We want two-day shipping, instant downloads, on-demand success. But destiny doesn't operate on your timeline. It operates on a process. And that process is often slow, hidden, and frustrating. It tests your patience. It tests your faith. It tests your willingness to keep moving even when progress is invisible. The truth is, you won't always see results immediately. Sometimes you won't see anything at all. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not working. Growth is happening beneath the surface. Think about a seed planted in the ground. For weeks or months, there's no sign of life above the soil. To the casual observer, it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, roots are forming. The seed is developing the foundation it needs to survive storms and produce fruit. If you quit watering the seed just because you don't see anything sprouting, you'll miss the harvest. Your life works the same way. The discipline, consistency, and sacrifices you're making right now might not show immediate results, but beneath the surface, you're building roots. You're laying a foundation strong enough to sustain the blessing when it comes. This is why trusting the process is so critical. Trust isn't passive, it's active. Trust says, even though I can't see it yet, I believe my effort is not wasted. Trust says, even though the results are delayed, the harvest is still coming. Trust allows you to keep showing up with discipline, to keep watering the seed with faith, to keep nurturing the dream even when nothing appears to be happening. Without trust, you'll abandon the process too soon. With trust, you'll stay the course until the outcome reveals itself. But let's be real, trusting the process isn't easy. It feels uncomfortable because it requires surrender. It forces you to let go of control, and control is something we love. We want guarantees. We want certainty. We want to know how long it will take, how hard it will be, and exactly what we'll get at the end. But life doesn't give you a map, it gives you a compass. The compass points you in the right direction, but it doesn't show you every detail of the journey. Trust is choosing to walk with that compass, believing that every step is leading you closer to your purpose, even if the path is unclear. Here's the danger of not trusting the process. Impatience leads to shortcuts, and shortcuts lead to setbacks. Think about it. How many people have sabotaged their future because they refused to wait? They jumped into relationships before they were ready. They quit too soon because results didn't come fast enough. They took the easy path instead of the disciplined one, and they paid the price later. Impatience will always cost you more in the long run. Trusting the process protects you from those costly detours. It keeps you grounded in discipline, reminding you that good things take time and the best things take even longer. Another powerful truth about trusting the process is that it develops your character. While you're waiting, while you're pushing through struggles without seeing the outcome, something is being built inside you. Patience, resilience, faith, humility, these qualities cannot be microwaved. They're forged over time through the pressure of waiting and the discipline of showing up day after day. And here's the secret. The process is more about who you're becoming than what you're achieving. Because if you become the right kind of person, the outcome will take care of itself. Think about the stories of the most successful people you admire. Behind every achievement, there's a process. Years of preparation, seasons of obscurity, countless struggles that no one saw. We celebrate their success, but we rarely honor their process. Yet it was the process that made them strong enough to handle the outcome. The same applies to you. The process is not punishment, it's preparation. And trusting it ensures that when the opportunity arrives, you're ready to step into it with strength, wisdom, and maturity. Now, here's something practical. When you can't see the outcome, focus on controlling what you can control. You can't control the timing of the harvest, but you can control how consistently you plant and water the seeds. You can't control every circumstance, but you can control your response. You can't control when doors open, but you can prepare so that when they do, you're equipped to walk through them. Trusting the process doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing. It means focusing on disciplined action while letting go of the need to control the results. And let me remind you of this. Delay is not denial. Just because it's taking longer than you expected doesn't mean it won't happen. Some of the greatest blessings in life take time because they require alignment of timing, people, resources, and opportunities. If it comes too soon, you won't be ready for it. If it comes too late, you might have missed your preparation. The process ensures that everything lines up exactly when it's supposed to. Your role is to keep moving in faith, trusting that what's for you will not pass you by. When the process feels overwhelming, remind yourself of your why. Why did you start? Why does this matter? Why is it worth enduring the struggle? Anchoring yourself to a bigger vision will help you trust the process when the outcome is hidden. And surround yourself with reminders of growth. Keep a journal of small wins. Celebrate progress, even if it's not visible to others. Progress is not always about big leaps. It's often about consistent steps. Every step forward is proof that the process is working, even if you can't yet see the full picture. Finally, remember this. Faith and trust are muscles, and like any muscle, they only grow when tested. Every season where you can't see the outcome is a season where your trust is being strengthened. The very struggle you hate is producing the faith you'll need for the future. The discipline of trusting when it doesn't make sense is preparing you for blessings that will exceed your expectations. One day, you'll look back and realize that the process was not just necessary, it was perfect. So if you're in a season where you're asking, God, how am I supposed to do this? I can't even see the outcome. Here's your answer. Trust the process. Keep showing up. Keep sowing. Keep believing. Your harvest is on the way. And when it comes, you'll realize that every hidden, frustrating, painful part of the process was shaping you into the person capable of receiving it. Partnering faith with action. Faith alone will not move your life forward, and action alone will not sustain you when the storms hit. You need both. Faith without action is wishful thinking, and action without faith is empty striving. But when faith and action come together, you create momentum that can break through obstacles, accelerate your growth, and manifest transformation. Too often, people lean too heavily on one side. Some believe all they have to do is pray, wait, and hope. They think faith is about sitting still and expecting miracles to show up at their doorstep. Others swing to the opposite extreme, believing that hustle, grind, and endless work are the keys to success. They live in burnout, constantly moving, constantly pushing, but with no deeper alignment guiding their steps. Both extremes lead to frustration. The truth is, faith provides the vision, while action brings that vision into reality. You need both to create the life you were meant to live. Think about it this way. Faith is like the seed and action is the water. Without the seed, there's nothing to grow. Without the water, the seed dies in the soil. Together, they produce life. Faith gives you hope. It gives you something to believe in when the evidence isn't there yet. It helps you imagine possibilities beyond your current circumstances. Action, however, is what proves your faith. It is the physical expression of what you believe in your heart. If you say you believe in transformation, but your actions don't align with that belief, then your faith is hollow. On the other hand, when your actions consistently match your faith, you align yourself with the outcomes you're believing for. But partnering faith with action doesn't mean acting in fear or desperation. It means moving forward with intentionality, rooted in the confidence that your steps matter. You don't need to know the whole path, you just need to take the next step. Faith says, even if I can't see the finish line, I trust that the ground will meet my feet when I step forward. And action says, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other anyway. That's the power of partnership. Faith fuels courage, and action turns courage into progress. Let's break this down. Faith without action can become a comfort zone. You can convince yourself that you're waiting, trusting, or being patient, when in reality you're procrastinating. You're waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity, the perfect set of conditions. But perfect doesn't exist. The best way to honor your faith is to move. Even small steps count. Even imperfect action matters, because when you step out, you prove to yourself that you believe the vision you've been holding in your heart. Faith was never meant to be passive, it was meant to activate you. On the other hand, action without faith turns into exhaustion. You can grind, hustle, and chase success, but if there's no belief guiding your effort, it becomes empty striving. You'll constantly feel like what you're doing isn't enough because you've placed the weight of the outcome entirely on your shoulders. Faith relieves that pressure. It reminds you that you're not alone, that timing is not always in your control, and that the process itself has value. When you combine action with faith, you move with peace instead of panic. You take risks, not out of fear of failure, but out of trust in the bigger vision. Partnering faith with action also means aligning your habits with your hope. You can't pray for health while ignoring your body. You can't ask for financial freedom while refusing to manage your money. You can't believe for better relationships while clinging to toxic habits that sabotage connection. Faith sets the direction, but action aligns your daily choices with that destination. Every choice you make is either strengthening your faith or weakening it. If you believe change is possible, then prove it by acting in ways that reflect that belief. Another dimension of this partnership is perseverance. Faith keeps you anchored when results are delayed, while action keeps you moving despite the delay. Faith whispers, don't give up, it's working even if you can't see it. Action says, keep going, small steps will add up to big change. Together, they create resilience. They allow you to push through resistance, overcome excuses, and endure seasons of struggle without losing sight of your vision. Without faith, you'll quit when the journey gets hard. Without action, you'll stay stuck in the same place forever. But with both, you'll keep pressing forward until breakthrough arrives. Here's a practical example. Imagine someone who wants to write a book. Faith is believing that their words can make an impact, that their story matters, and that readers are waiting for their message. Action is sitting down every day, even if it's only for 30 minutes, and putting words on the page. Faith is seeing the finished book in their mind before it exists. Action is the discipline of editing, revising, and shaping the manuscript. Without faith, they'll quit when the writing feels overwhelming. Without action, the book will never leave their imagination. But together, faith and action birth something that impacts the world. Another example, someone who wants to transform their finances. Faith is believing they don't have to stay trapped in debt, that abundance is possible for them, and that freedom is within reach. Action is creating a budget, paying off debt step by step, and seeking new opportunities for income. Faith provides the hope, action provides the strategy. Without faith, they'll get discouraged by how long the journey takes. Without action, they'll keep wishing for change while nothing shifts in reality. With both, they create momentum toward freedom. Partnering faith with action also requires consistency. It's not about bursts of belief or bursts of effort. It's about aligning both every single day. Anyone can believe for a moment. Anyone can act for a moment. But sustained faith combined with sustained action creates transformation. Think of it like rowing a boat. Faith is one oar, action is the other. If you row with only one oar, you'll go in circles. But when you row with both, you move forward with power and direction. Here's the encouragement. You don't need massive action right away. You don't need unshakable faith overnight. Start where you are. Take one step of faith, then back it up with one step of action. Believe in the vision for your health, then go for the walk. Believe in your financial freedom, then start saving. Believe in the possibility of better relationships, then make the call, forgive the person, or set the boundary. Small acts of faith and action compound into major transformation. Finally, understand this. When you partner faith with action, you align yourself with opportunity. Doors open for those who are moving. Breakthroughs come to those who are prepared. Miracles often meet you on the path of progress, not while you're standing still. Faith attracts the unseen, and action prepares you to receive it. That's why faith without action feels powerless, and action without faith feels directionless. But when you bring them together, you create unstoppable momentum. So if you're in a place where you've been asking, God, how am I supposed to do this? The answer may be simpler than you think. Believe and then move. Trust and then act. Pray and then prepare. Dream and then do. Don't just sit and hope. Don't just grind and strive. Combine both. Partner your faith with your action and watch as your life begins to align with the vision you've been carrying inside you all along.